everybody, it's Doug from Rock Creek Runner, and I'm really excited today to be with my friend and running partner, Peter Ripmaster, who is the owner of Black Mountain Running Company, where he has invited me to join him today. And we are going to talk about an upcoming race of his. So Peter, thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely, Doug. My pleasure, man.
Cool. So the reason, we wanted to sit down and chat is because you're doing something that most people, even the people in the trail and ultra world, just can't even fathom. And that is you're about to take off to Alaska to run the 350-mile Iditarod Trail Invitational, the ITI.
Right.
So how are you feeling about that, man?
I'm feeling great about it. Alaska has always played a big role in my life. I lost my mom to cancer in 2000. And after I lost her, I was really kind of lost about who I was and where I was going and things like this. And I kind of felt that the only way I was going to kind of find out who I was and kind of reestablish my identity on my own as an adult was to go to Alaska and just get away from everything and refine myself, So really what it was I just lied about some experience, about a dog mushing experience. And I went up there and worked for a few years as a dog musher. So
cool.
That's when Alaska really resonated with me, and I look back at that point in my life as the simplest and best time of my life, as far as just kind of getting back to what makes me tick, what makes me happy, rather than trying to please other people. And just kind of, it was just a time when I needed to do that, and Alaska's been in my blood ever since. And so this is just a joy to be able to go up and do this race. It's tough and it's grueling and it's all that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. It's a brutal race, but that's what I really enjoy about life. I like this. I wouldn't be going up there. In fact, I was talking to someone earlier about it. It's got to be an intrinsic type motivation, because if you're doing this for some other reason, you won't finish.
Yeah.
You won't find it in yourself to get through it. So I test myself, I learn about myself, and I'm just in beautiful, in beautiful mountains, which I like to do all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's your draw to Alaska. So it kind of explains for people who aren't familiar with the race exactly what it is. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so the Iditarod Trail Invitational has nothing to do with the Iditarod Trail sled dog race. It's totally a different thing. And what the Iditarod Trail Invitational is it's a human-powered ultramarathon. So, and people are on foot like me. They do it on foot. People bike it on big fat tire bikes, and then people ski it as well. So there'll be a couple people skiing the route this year. But that's what it is, and it's a wild race. We go on the exact same trail that the dogs do. This year, I just found out that they changed the dogs' route, the sled dog race. They changed the route because of lack of snow and really tough trails. But yet we're staying with the original route. So it's we know what it's going to be. It's going to be really rough and probably dangerous in some spots. But to me, it's that's what you go up there to do this for. I don't want anything that's too benign and too cleaned up. It doesn't do it for me. And the race director of this race is full on old school, man. He's about the adventure. He's not about anything but that. So he wants it tough, and he invites people that he thinks can finish races like this.
Right. So this isn't something that's going to have aid every 5 miles or something like that. How far are you between 350 miles? That's a really long way. How far are you between checkpoints or aid stations?
Yeah.
Is there any aid at all?
No, so what it is this is a self-supported race. You are to lean on fellow racers.
Okay.
So if something goes on, and a lot of times it's on your own. You might be with people for a while, but like last year, I was on my own the whole time. So self-rescue is what's expected. They expect you to get yourself out of any situation you get yourself into.
So you say it's self-supported, so we'll actually get to this. We'll show the gear that you're carrying around, but you're pulling a sled the whole way.
Right.
And you're carrying food and, how long is this going to take you? How long does it take the average person?
So, somewhere I think about maybe a week, 8 days
Okay.
would be a good time for just your average person. I mean, now when I say average people, all these people are proven athletes.
Sure,
These aren't like newbies to the ultra running. They have proven themselves step by step by step. So there's no real person that gets up there that shouldn't be there. The race directors make sure that, you're going to be able to take care of your business.
Right.
But yeah, so as far as getting back to what you asked earlier, I don't think I answered. The question was checkpoints and how close they are. Well, like the first checkpoint in the race is at mile 59. So, you're starting and you got 59 miles, which probably takes, 15 hours-ish or something like that, roughly.
Right.
So, you carry a lot of food for the trail. Now, I bring a lot of food that's like trail food. And all you want to do is get a big meal in. Well, all these checkpoints, there's about 6 checkpoints on the trail, maybe 6 or 7, and they're winter lodges that you can go into. You can get a room for a few hours if you want to. You can dry all your gear. You can buy batteries. You can buy Snickers bars. You can drink a couple beers and get a hot meal in you. You can order a pizza and get pasta and all this stuff. So you at least have 7 times throughout the race where you're going to get a big old meal.
Right.
And you use those
warm
times
up and dry out.
Warmed up, refocused, some sleep.
How do you train for something this long, this large? You're moving for 8 days straight and in just terrible conditions. How do you train for something like that, especially in the mountains here in North Carolina?
Well, I'll tell you, I do my best to be physically ready as far as, now, I don't think there's any way, like say, for instance, for marathon training, you're running 26.2 miles.
Right.
You might run 20 miles leading up to it in a long training run.
Right.
It's not like I'm going out to do 250 or 300 miles to get ready for the 350 mile.
Right.
I think of it as this. I'm gonna be in good shape. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put my body in a position to know that it's about to make a big push. In shape, but ready for it. Like not like coming in tired. Like getting fit, getting ready for it, taking some time off, kind of stepping back off the throttle a little bit. But to me, man, it's all about mental.
Yeah.
Like it's mental training. It's realizing that there's going to be times when you're sad, in pain, wondering why the hell you're up there, wondering what you're trying to prove, missing your family.
Sure.
For me, missing my parents that I've lost both of them. So I have a lot of spiritual time and a lot of deep thinking about big things, and like spiritual things, and think for me, it's important to have that time. I get to know myself really well during these races.
Right.
And then I get to come home and just have so much more compassion for just the day-to-day things, because like, if I had it my way, I'd be doing stuff like this year round. Like this is my happy place, really, out in the wilderness, pulling sled, all the gear, beautiful mountains. I mean, really, think about, going on your own feet and seeing Denali right next to you, and you just skirting Denali, and it's like you just want time to stop. It's just absolutely beautiful. So a lot of it for me is like, it's not, the physical is a big part of it, but the mental and the emotional, I embrace that as well.
Right.
And I look forward to the tough time.
So walk me through what a typical, how like a typical day. How many miles are you covering in a day, and are you sleeping? Are you setting up a tent and that kind of thing? Or are you kind of just laying out the sleeping bag? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, and like I say, I speak from experience of finishing last year.
Right.
That really is a drop in the bucket to the experience that a lot of people have up there. So it's not like I got all this figured out. But like what I'm expecting a typical day to be this year would be something like this. So most likely I'll be working on my feet for probably 20 to 21 hours a day, every day. And so my hope is to finish the race this year in under a week, which means I have to average 50 miles a day. So 50 miles times 7 is 350. That's how long the race is. So if I can sneak in under a week, then I'm really making good time. And last year it took me 10 days and something like 4 hours or 6 hours or something like that.
Okay.
And again, it was a real rough year. So this year I'm hoping to clean it up and shave 3 days off my time. And it seems like a lot, and it is. But if you knew how rough last year was, and with my feet issues, getting lost, having a 90-pound sled, all those things together, it was like all I could do to finish.
Yeah.
And so this year I'll be much lighter, have a lot less weight than I'm bringing, which is all has to do with what you're comfortable with bringing on the trail. Some want to go light, but it's a very committed style when you go light, because if weather comes in or if you get injured, you only have a limited number of things to keep you safe for the time.
Right.
Me,
taking
on the other hand,
that,
taking risks. You're taking risks. And I mean, this, you can take risks in races where there's aid and there's aid stations and things like that. This is not the place you want to take a lot of risks. So for me, it's like the first year I bought, they say it's really a cool saying. It's like your first year you run this race, you pack a lot of your insecurities with you. And so I had 90 pounds worth of insecurities last year. I mean, I just brought way too much stuff. I brought way too many things for what if this happens, rather than just going for it and being committed to getting checkpoint to checkpoint by moving. You can stop and you can regroup at the checkpoints, and I think that's the best way to go about this race.
Well, let's get to your equipment. I really am excited to see what you're packing at the different drop boxes and what you're going to throw on the sled, and let's get to that.
Yeah, and I'll just say with that, it's pretty close to what it's going to be going up there, but I still have 2 weeks from tomorrow before I go. So last minute things might change. I might swap things out. I might hear more about what the weather's going to be like for that period of time.
Right.
So, you might not have that real thick, heavy jacket, or you might bring that heavy jacket. Or, some things change, but I'll show you kind of all that I'll be bringing, and rough, 95% of it,
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so Doug and I thought it'd be fun for me to just kind of go through some of the gear that I'll be bringing in. And my hopes with you seeing this is that you just kind of sniff the scope of what it takes to go about an adventure like this. And I don't necessarily look at myself as a big gearhead, but when you're going up to do this kind of thing, you need the best gear and you need stuff that's going to work and that's proven. So, and again, everyone goes about this trip differently. The stuff that I have is not what the next person will have, and he'll have his reasons for bringing mine. And, and so I'll show you what I got, and you can kind of have some fun with that. So first things first is my sled. Last year I had a big old honking sled that was 19 pounds and in itself before I even put anything in it. So this year we went with this is a Northern Sled Works sled that's made in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I had some friends make me some parts for my sled. So this will connect. And so these poles will connect right here to the sled, and then will connect into my harness. And so I'll pull the sled behind me. We might not even have mentioned the fact that you haul a sled with all your gear behind you, but this will be the sled that I'll take. This looks like a simple piece, but it's very specialized. We worked really hard on coming up with a good, solid method that's going to be strong enough to get me through 350 miles of terrain up there. So that's the sled. Then I'll show you some electronics real quick. This, I won't be bringing all this stuff up, but a lot of it I will. If you can see in here, I have a really good headlamp. I have a spot tracker that I will not be bringing because they're not allowed on the trail. I have a GPS, handheld GPS, that has all the checkpoints in it already, so it's ready to go. Which will help me greatly this year. I'll have a little, what is this thing called? Doug, help me out. iPod, what is it? iPod. And I'll have tons of music. I love listening to music up there and listening to books on tape. On a race this long, it's kind of fun. You can listen to books on tape like through the night. So I might listen to Shackleton's Endurance, from 1 a.m. until 7 a.m. And just kind of get lost in a story. So it helps me to kind of get through some tough miles sometimes. So that's the electronics I'll be bringing. I'll bring things to charge them at the checkpoints. And if all else fails, then I'll be okay without electronics, but it helps on the trail. It can really help as far as some loneliness and things like that. So those are the electronics. Yeah, so now I'll show you a little bit of the gear. I got a big duffel bag that I bring, and I'm hoping to have about 45 to 50 pounds this year in total, which would save me 40 pounds from last year. And I'm not really willing to go too much lighter because, like I said, things happen, and I'll be ready if they do. But let me just go through my bag and show you what I got. So, a shell. Another shell, and I don't know if I'll bring both of those. I'll have to wait and see about the weather. This is like a bomb-proof Arc'teryx, big old heavy thing. I didn't wear it once last year. When you're working and you're running and you're on the trail, you stay warm. And so really, I have a -60 sleeping bag, so I don't really need both of those things. If it's so cold that I'm stopping, then I'll get into my sleeping bag. So I don't need like a really super heavy jacket. So I'm probably leaning towards not taking this year and just having this jacket. But we'll see about that when the time comes. I have some over boots, so when I get to the checkpoints, I can give my feet some relief and put my feet into these, wear these around the checkpoints and just have some relief on the feet there. They don't weigh much, so it's kind of there would be some people that would never bring these, but for the weight, I think it's nice to just give your feet a break when you get to the checkpoints. This is the food that I'll bring from the start. It's about 9 pounds of food. It's really just a bunch of junk, really. I mean, some of it's good and natural and organic and all that stuff, but really what it is it's just quick energy. It's like when I'm on the trail and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm tired and I'm hungry and there's a long way to the checkpoint. I just want to grab a handful of food that's just going to get me by for that time. When I get to the checkpoints, I'll be able to eat real meals and real food a little more. So this is just going to get me through. So really, it's just a bunch of honey stingers and, gels and all types of stuff, batteries. I also have some fuel in here, some heat, which is a fuel line additive that I use to burn my stove. So that's in there too, in case I need to turn ice and snow into drinking water, which happens once in a while. So I'm ready on that front. Like I said, I have a -60 sleeping bag. This is a heavy, big sleeping bag. It's made by Feathered Friends, and it's an Arctic sleeping bag that's made for like huge expeditions to Everest and polar regions and stuff. So it's -60, and it really did the trick last year. So, knowing that I have this, if something were to happen, if I were to get injured, if I needed to build a snow cave and wait out a few days for weather or for any situation, I really feel comfortable having this sleeping bag right here. So it's a little heavy, it's a little bulky, but to me it's worthwhile, especially that I might spend a little bit more time outside than the average person. I then have a couple big things for water. Now these are just more or less like big Nalgene bottles that you'll fill up with water, and then this is just, to save it from the elements, because even in your bag, this stuff still freezes. Like last year, this would freeze through all the way to where I could turn it over and get a little bit of water out, but most of it was ice. So these, they help, but they don't guarantee anything. So I'll have 2 of these. Last year I had 4 of these, and I had them filled at all times. These are like 6 pounds or 7 pounds full. So that's like 28 pounds of water that I carried last year. It's like, so I have 2, and I might even have 1 because I'll have a bladder on my backpack that I'll have about 70 ounces of water that will stay warm because I'll be exerting energy and keeping that bladder warm in theory. So here are those. And then I have just a few extra clothes. Usually, by the end of this race, everyone that does it is stinky and rotted out, and all you want is a shower and to change clothes. Last year I brought a ton of clothes, and I found myself just in the same clothes because I didn't want to change. I just want to get through it, so I'll bring a few extra layers, definitely extra socks, because you just never know what's going to happen. It's always good to have dry socks. There's overflow ice that can get you and get you in a hurry, and so and as far as overflow ice goes, I also have some boots. These are actually what I wore last year for the majority of my race. These are over boots. And so you can put your foot with a pair of trail shoes on in these. And then these are over boots, so they're just waterproof, and if water's coming up, they're not going to get inside your boots and things like this. Now last year my feet were so hurt and I was wearing so many socks I couldn't fit into a normal pair of shoes. So these are what I wore for hundreds of miles last year. That's not the plan for this year, but if there is overflow ice and I have to walk through it, I'll put these on over my shoes and gaiters and just hope for the best, Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's totally foolproof with that, but a lot of people will bring hip waders. So if there's a lot of, there's been times when people have been up to overflow with their thighs. So some folks will have hip waders. I didn't see the need last year, and if it comes back to bite me this year, so be it. But I'm pretty comfortable with these. So this is my my extra pair of footwear, and then I have just a couple other things. I have my sleeping pad. So I'll have my sleeping pad. I'm not going to bring my bivy this year because you don't deal with a lot of rain, so it's not like, the snow is actually a good insulator, so if you just get your sleeping pad and you put your bag on top of it, you crawl in, you're going to be all right, And then the only other thing I have in here is my stove, which is a really awesome piece of equipment. This is my stove right here, and so it's got a little felt, and it's just got a reservoir at the bottom, and so I will throw in heat, which is again, it's just a fuel line additive that like if it's a cold morning, you would put this fuel into your gas tank and it would keep it from freezing, but it also works as a really good fuel for stoves no matter the temperature and things like this. So I'll dump a good amount into here. I'll take a spark, I'll take a flint, and I'll make a spark, and I'll light this thing up, and then I'll put this on top of it just like that. And you got to start with some water in there, but I'll throw some water in there, and then I'll throw little bits of snow and ice in, and I will make myself water. So that happened a few times last year to where I was out of water. There was too many miles between the next checkpoint. I knew I needed to stop and make water. So you just come out and you take the time that it takes to make it, and you fill up all your bottles, and then you get going. So this is a very important piece. It's pretty light and it's pretty specialized gear. I'm really, really excited with it. So this will be a good piece of gear. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's what I'll be bringing. All this stuff right here. I'm not going to be bringing the big case with the electronics. I'll have my GPS in a pocket. I'll have my little MP3 player in another pocket. So when I need to use it, I'll use it. But again, I'm kind of, it's funny, back in the day I had someone say ounces make pounds, and if you can cut little bits here and there out, and it was like, yeah, but now it's like, I see the wisdom of that. Like, last year I saw guys that had holes drilled in their toothbrushes so that it was lighter, right? And then you looked at me and, I ended up with my house keys halfway through the race. Like, I'm like, why didn't I leave these back at the hotel? Like I had, I didn't need to give those 350-mile ride, So just in finishing this interview, I would just like to tell you guys, if you're listening and you're somewhat intrigued, here's how it works. If you see what I'm doing and you look at the equipment that I use and you're like, this guy's nuts, he's crazy, he's lost it, blah, 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 so be it. I've heard it all before. But if you look at the stuff and you're intrigued and you're like, man, that's awesome, someday, if you're even sniffing that, you need to go start doing things like this. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, to get the skills needed. But to be able to go out, like as far as being a man, this makes me the happiest. I mean, I'm sitting here surrounded by all this cool gear. I'm going into the wilderness in Alaska, and there's unknowns. And I mean, as a man and a pretty wild man, that's just what I'm looking for. So I really hope that you see this stuff and it makes you want to go out and attack something pretty big.